Welcome to Holdback Rack Podcast. My name is Jessica Hare. I operate Hare Hollow Farm, and we breed boas, balls, and select colubrids.
Hi, I'm Jana King. I operate ASM Royal Tails, and I breed high-end ball pythons.
We want to share our journey navigating herpetoculture and are dedicated to promoting biohazard safety for all species. And we would love you to answer the question, what's in your holdback rack?
Where was Jana?
Welcome.
What happened?
To episode 29.
Welcome.
Jana, we didn't do a podcast last week, and I think it was because you were gargling a Belrog's Balzac. Is this a fact?
Yes, I was. I was doing my best to be a zombie, literally. And I sounded like a zombie, and you couldn't understand me. So we could have done a podcast, but it probably would have just been me making horrible...
It was like croaking, like one of those croaky voices where they've lost all voice. She sent me a audio clip, and I'm like, that's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Objection.
Rejected. Yeah, I was dying a little bit, but my COVID tests were negative, so
You just had good old-fashioned dying.
just
Nice.
good old-fashioned dying. I'm here now. I apologize for those of you who
We're back,
have no
bitches.
podcast. We're back, bitches. That's
Fuck
right. I
them.
think that's the
Can't
only
keep
week
them
we've
down.
missed.
Since I'm getting ready to move, there probably will be more missed weeks randomly because I record the audio to my computer. So whenever the computer is
Packed up.
in July, there might be like a dead week then also. So we could pre-record for that week if we want to, but we don't have to. There's no rules here. Only fun.
Only fun. Mm-hmm. And not safe for work. Words
Right. Remember,
and content.
everybody at home, it's not safe for work.
If you're just tuning in, not safe for work.
Right, if this
Put
is
on
your
your
first
headphones.
time listening to the podcast, send your kids away. And this is about reptiles, sort of. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes,
Sometimes it's about Bridgerton, you know?
right, sometimes. We did have Perry Post did a shout out on YouTube, and Lou Balls did a shout out on Instagram. And they said that they had left a review on Google reviews, which I didn't even go check. I just believed them. So that's cool. So just remember, if you leave a review, 5-star review on wherever you listen to the episodes, try to give you a shout out. Once we have 1 million of you doing it, and then we'll have to pick and choose winners at that point. Will we ever get to that point, though, Jana?
I'm going to hold my breath over here.
She'll be dead. All right, today's topic is one that I feel really strongly about, and I think nobody talks about.
I haven't seen it talked about anywhere. Actually, I was really excited about it. It's a good idea.
Half of what makes the hobby fun is collection building. Like, how do you decide what to have of what species, or what kinds of what species within the species, or, you know, that's the fun. You're like acquiring and assembling and holdbacking, because this is a holdback rack, and the planning is, for me, I don't know, a solid 60% of the fun. Thinking about it, thinking about the future. And so collection strategies fall into two camps in general. People who have large numbers of less species, and people that have Noah's Ark type collections. Jana, what is a Noah's Ark collection?
It is 2 of every kind. Pairs, small numbers, trios of many species instead of tens or hundreds of individual species. I have mostly ball python.
Right, and I feel like ball python people also mostly have ball pythons.
You are correct.
And I feel like the species that are very morphy lend to people having lots of kinds of that species. So they'll have, like, a crested gecko person would be like, I'm going to go balls out crested geckos, and I might have chihuahuas and lychees or whatever. But they can have 100 crested geckos, and that's not weird to anybody in the hobby. But there's the other people, the non-morph part of the hobby, that are very staunch proponents of Noah's Ark style collections. They're like, you need to stop getting more of the same kind of thing and stop the morph game. And you need to start getting 2 of all the kinds of things to try them out.
You're kind of both, aren't you?
Yes. And I think it's a problem. And I'm going to tell you why. Like, I start with the cons because, to me, the part of the hobby that wants you to do 2 of every kind does not explain to you why that is a mistake. It's just, it only thinks about the potential benefits. And and since I have 100 ball pythons and 50 boas, but some little Noah's Ark colubrids, that is a fucking mistake. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if we can prove it to everybody at home that it is a mistake to Noah's Ark anything. But definitely little colubrids.
The first con is having just two of a species means that you never really learn the actual range of husbandry or traits of the species.
And then I got some examples. Like if you only bought 2 corn snakes and they're like psychos, which most corn snakes are cool, you wouldn't know that most corn snakes are cool if you had 2 that were like the super runners that poop on you every time. And that's the same for other sort of traits. Like if you have 2 ball pythons that are mouse-only eaters, and you're like, well, I guess all ball pythons only eat mice.
All are obnoxious eaters, yes.
Yeah, you would ignore the 80% that are pretty chill about eating and will eat whatever. The biased lens of only having 2 animals ever to determine your perception of the species means that your sort of window to understand them is not even remotely complete and maybe not accurate. Or maybe it is. Maybe you had 2 that were perfectly normal John Doe and Jane Doe snaky, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a perfectly representative, maybe, but maybe not. How would you know? You only ever had 2. And then this is an opinion that I think, I don't know if you share, you can chime in, but I think having 100 of one species for 1 year is more experience than having 2 of one species for 50 years. What do you think about that?
I think that's a stretch. I think it's just a little bit. No, I think having 100 for a year is a lot of experience, but I think that if you've kept them for 50 years, that your experience is, I would consider that person more experienced than the person that's only has 1 year reptile keeping of 100.
I don't.
I see that. I say we're different.
Okay.
We're different in that. Like,
So I mean,
like
100 of different ages doing different things. Like if you have 100 babies, you've only experienced 100 baby ball pythons. If you have 100 and 20 of them were females, 10 were adult males, a bunch of them were subadults, and a bunch of them are babies,
breeding.
You would have a normal sort of Windows view of what a snake is. If someone has 2 ball pythons for 30 years, what do they know about the entire ball python population?
You mean if they're just like pets and they don't breed
Even
them?
if they breed them, they've only seen what one female does for follicle
with
development with one male.
That's fair. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just am saying that, like,
you did just say I was wrong.
I said I don't agree. That's different than being wrong.
So this is an exaggerated example because I don't know anybody that has 100 of perfectly balanced ages and only 2 for 50 years of the exact same species, and they never expanded or did anything else with it. But I think people like you or me who do not necessarily have 30 years of experience are automatically discounted because we just don't have 30 years of experience.
I do feel like I get discounted because of how new I am. They're like, and talk to me if you're still here in 5 years. I have quite a large collection for someone who hasn't been in it very long. I did, even though last year was my first season, I do feel like I experienced quite a lot of events, breeding events that you have to, like, you can just read about having a egg-bound female, and it's not the same thing as experiencing that.
Right. So a person who only had 2 may never have experienced parthenogenesis, egg-bound female, males that don't want to breed until they're 1,000 grams because they're dumb, or males that have bum sperm because he had 2 good ones. So I just think the sheer N equals 50 or N equals 100 opens you up to more experiences that time doesn't necessarily offer you. So
I would agree with you on that statement.
Yeah, I'm not saying that person did not have experiences. Because their collection was always only very small, did they have the full range of experiences that species could offer you?
No,
I don't know.
Not.
Yeah, maybe not. Who knows? Unless their female did every weird thing every year and managed to like achieve all of them like a fucking
hit all the points. That's right.
So someone who's had 100 snakes for 5 years, I think would be like the peak experience person you want to listen to. They've had a lot of snakes for a long time.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah,
but there's a lot of people who are like, well, I had a boa for 20 years. And it's still on a red heat lamp. And you're like, okay. So that's your evidence that you've fully understood.
It's in a 55 gallon.
Yeah. I hear that all the time with ball python people that just come by one rat or whatever. I have it in a wooden. I'm like, okay, I know it's alive, but...
It's pretty obvious, but if one of your pair is the wrong gender, dies, escapes, or is otherwise made incapable of breeding, your entire project is kaput.
Dead. Done.
Yeah.
It's obvious, but nobody thinks about it. Everybody buys a pair of something. Not everybody. The people who know Noah's Ark will buy a pair of something to try them out and be like, oh, I have 2 males. Or in colubrid case, one of them busts loose and runs away, which happens a lot. And now you're left with
one snake of one species.
Right. And if you had even just like a 2-3 colony, you'd be better positioned than this Noah's Ark bullshit. And I think that's what I'm trying to like drive home here is there's a lot of things that you don't think about when you're just picking up a pair for fun. Let's just pick up a pair of such and such.
I was going to say, how many just pairs do you have, Jessica? You did quite a bit of that this year, didn't you?
I picked up 4 Russian rat snakes, 2 broad-banded bamboo rat snakes, and 2 diones this year. And I'd already had just 2 Japanese rat snakes and kept a daughter. So ideally, I would need to go buy at least another unrelated...
Kept a daughter from this year or last year?
From last year. I don't know what I'm keeping this year.
Okay.
So I decided, I guess I haven't said this, I decided to call both of the older Russian rat snakes because they had a persistent, it didn't respond well to treatment, respiratory infection that also did not pop up on a test. And I didn't know why or if that was good or safe. So those are gone. Gonzo. So now I'm back.
Last time I talked to you, you hadn't decided what you were doing yet.
So I'm back down to just a pair. Let's just go with that. So I need at least another pair. And I need at least another pair of... So yes, I have done it this year and I've already had problems, right? So I'm back down to a pair.
And most of the time, if you buy a pair, they're usually related.
Yes, and there's some stuff down there about that problem. If you were to buy a pair from someone, they're probably siblings from that one clutch because they only ever bought a pair also.
Right.
Right? So when you only have 1 pair of something, you're not selective breeding in any way. You're just breeding. And I know
breeding.
People like to shit on ball python people for being like a puppy mill. I'm like, who's a motherfucking puppy mill now? You literally have no criteria that you're selecting on when you just have a pair. You're just breeding them. You're slapping 2 together because that's literally all you have. And I'm talking about myself right now. So, fuck me. But the people who are like very strong proponents of Noah's Ark style collections will shit on ball python people all day for just like breeding too much or breeding stuff that doesn't matter or whatever. But they are literally the definition of a puppy mill by just hitting fucking copy on their printer for this kind of snake without any regard to any of the following selection criteria that would be important. Like you can't select for good feeders. You can't select for good morphology of the snake. Like if it's ugly as fuck. Sorry, that's all you got.
Fat head.
It's got a fat head or weird body. You can't select for good temperament. You can't select for morphs, like whatever morphs you have in that pair, that's all you got. Can't really select to polygenic selection either. Like you might see a little bit of variation in the babies, but probably not because that's all you got. You just got those 2 parents.
Oh, you kind of hit gold with your Japanese rat snakes. I mean, I know that the albino isn't wanted, but yours are pretty aberrant.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means, right? I don't know if that was a product of incubation error or something cool happened. 3 of them are wonky to some extent, and 2 are totally normal. But none of them were like that last year. But also there was no albinos last year. So what the fuck does that mean? Who knows? Doesn't matter. I will get more Japanese rat snakes by next year. Hopefully at least another adult male. At least have...
Because you want to do trios, don't you?
No, I want to do 10 or something.
Oh, in one enclosure?
No, and just in general, 10 per species. That'd be great. Or 5-5 or 3-7. I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. It just, 2 is not enough. 4 is barely enough. It should be more like a larger number. Like, what if his hemipean falls off and then he's out of luck?
No, then you're out of luck.
Yeah, she's out of luck too. You know what I mean?
She's out of luck, yeah. Mm-hmm. If you buy the pair as siblings from the original breeder, your sibling crosses with its sibling means that you probably shouldn't be selling your babies as pairs, It's too much inbreeding. I just said this, but it's a point on the thing. Because literally, if everybody knows ARCs and has pairs, and then they're selling pairs, like with garter snakes, you can only buy them usually in pairs because people don't want to, if they just sell females, they all will be stuck with their males. So they make you buy a male and a female to sell the males. But then we're all breeding siblings and we're not helping the species any, are we?
No. Right.
No.
You're just contributing to like unnecessary homozygosity. You could be fine, but you could find bad alleles of something. So there was I took it off the show notes for time, but there was a big debate in a hognose group about whether or not someone who forced 1-1 pairs was a scammer in a way. Like, even though they were a real breeder, that was a scam. Like, if you cannot move your males as pets and allow free females to go to breeder homes, you are a scammer. Like, you are running...
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a big debate. And even, like, the moderator was like, fuck anyone who forces 1-1 pairs. And I'm like, whoa, that seems strong.
Strong words.
Strong words. And I don't know where I fall. Like the ball python industry would be one that could benefit from 1-1 pairs for the seller's perspective, because males are so
hard,
less valuable. But I think maybe 1-1 pairs just shouldn't exist, because we need to make a better conduit to getting pet quality males that aren't necessary for breeding into pet homes. Whatever that looks like. Shows, wholesaling to good pet stores, whatever. So maybe that should be true for garter snakes, so we don't have to inbreed siblings over and over again. But if you did have to buy pairs, you would just buy multiple pairs and then
flip them.
Right. It's just, nobody talks about that in terms of collection building. They just said, well, if you like something, just go get a pair of it and see what happens.
Right. So once mine are old enough to sex, because they're very difficult to sex when they're teeny tiny, I think I have a trio, but I don't know. So once they're bigger, I will sex them and see if they are a trio. And if they are, then I will probably purchase an additional trio. And then I will probably flip-flop the males.
All right, that'd be good. And then if a male escapes, he could still technically cover all 4 females.
Correct.
For a season or 2 until you found another
That
male.
was the other test, is they're really expensive. And I just assumed they were all going to keep escaping forever. But I have managed to keep alive 3 garters for 3 months in my pet tank.
The pet tank. I look forward, this is totally an off topic, to not having any bioactive in my new house. That's all I have to say about that. To me, it's been a constant reservoir for forward flies to like run back to and then repopulate once a single turd is laid somewhere.
Yeah, I'm hoping that when I move out to my building that I can get a handle on the fly issue. There will be no bioactive out in the building, so fingers crossed, everybody.
Another con. If someone already bought animals from you the previous year, even if your pair were unrelated, they would not necessarily want to buy babies from subsequent years of pairing. They're just siblings.
Because they're just siblings, yeah.
They're just siblings from different years. You have no new morphs, no new genetics, and they're still siblings. So this is like shooting the repeat customer trajectory in the foot. Because why would they want to come back to you for another one since your colony is not big enough to support?
Because you're just cranking out the same genetics.
Yes. So even if someone's like, I don't want to have 20 Japanese rat snakes, well, that's fine. At least have multiple pairs so people can pick up unrelated pairs for themselves or whatever your species are.
If you have trouble selling the babies from your pair, you might think no one wants to buy that species, but the fact might be that no one wants to buy the babies from your pair.
Burn.
This is pretty common with 2 meh boas when they're bred together, make meh boa babies, which can only go to pet homes. And there aren't a lot of pet homes, are there?
Right. And then you could put this on anything. You could be like, a pastel and a spider, and you made bumblebees, pastels, spiders, and normals. The ball python industry is dead. Or 2 like dirt brown boas that are like mutts Congratulations, you have 20 new dirt brown boas who are mutts.
Nobody wants the dirt
Your
brown.
perception of the market is completely controlled by the babies produced from only that pair. But if you had 5 females and 3 males, you'd be like, oh, people are really into the babies from this mom, but not this mom. So maybe she can go on as a pet home, and I'll focus on this lineage because it's high color or whatever the criteria are. But you have such a limited way to test the market when you literally only have the products of one pairing. Having a diverse collection means you never get known for any one thing potentially, if you don't at least have a focus point for your interests. So I have on here like being the best plains garter snake girl is better than being the best garter snake girl, which is better than being the colubrid girl. And you can argue like, well, there's not enough interest in just plains garter snakes. And maybe that's true. So you could change the species. What if you were the chondro keeper girl, the best keeper of chondros? Is that better than being like the best keeper of Morelia? So that group, which sort of chondros are a cousin, or the best python keeper? You're so fucking generic as like the python keeper because you have 2 of a bunch of kinds of pythons. Are you known for anything? I mean, like NPR is like, I'm not going to take a shit on NPR. This isn't that. But they're always advocating people like try different species and have like, what do you want your potential listener to do? Be
What is the end game of your advice?
Yeah, are you like telling them to be so generalized no one will know that they even have that species to sell because they think that they sell something else? Or I don't know. Obviously that advice has nothing to do with sales in my opinion, but like if you're trying to make a business, you should try to be known for something. Leopard gecko morphs and I don't know, pick something. Chondros, like you could be like, those are my 2 things that I want to be known for or whatever, or 3 things. But why would you want to be someone who's not known for 10 things or 15 things when you could be like the person who's
15 things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to get at there.
I also feel like that's kind of the reason why I went more enhancer rather than desert ghost, is because it's just not done as much here in the US. And I felt like it might lend to some, not notoriety, I mean, that's too strong a word, but I thought because a lot of people do watch mutation creation, a lot of people do, Canova's working with enhancer, but it's not easily accessible, that having it might give me an edge. And that's a morph, not a species.
Right.
Same kind
and
of
the
rule
rule still applies. Like if you could be, and we talked about this in the like building your success, to have a focal point that you're trying to be known for.
Right.
You can fuck yourself the same way with morphs within a species. Being like, I'm going to do a pair or so of every kind of ball python. That is a mistake. Do not do that.
Oh my gosh, every recessive. I have a pair of every recessive.
Right, you don't even have full breeding groups. You just have a pair. Like, congratulations for fucking yourself right in the ass. This is the same topic, just with species instead of morphs. To me. And I've bought a couple of pairs this year, and I feel like it's not a mistake to get into those species. It's just a mistake to get into 2 of those species, in my opinion.
Right. I agree. More.
So if you can't handle more, the thing there would be like, pick the species you really want to have more of in whatever way you can.
Now the point. The first thing that I think of when I think of a Noah's Ark collection that makes me go, but don't, is that there's a big spillover events that are more common in mixed species collections than single species, like ball python nitovirus. Cannot get into carpet pythons unless they have some proximity, which allows for cross-contamination. Larger groups of animals means that carpets could get their own room or their own facility. Ball pythons can have their own room, and then you don't have to worry about cross-contamination. But a collection that's full of pairs and trios, like you can't give every single pair its own room, even in a facility.
Right, and that doesn't even make sense. Like, why would I justify giving this pair this much space? So it obviously makes sense that they would pile them all in one room, but then they're falling into the piling them all in one room trap.
Right.
Which nobody calls it a trap in the whole earth. But Holdback Rack podcast, the only podcast telling you like it is. That's a fucked up, terrible decision. And there's a lot of cool people with
Even
cool
if you're
collections that do
even
it.
if you're so safe, even if you're so on top of your biosecurity, it's still
It's
like
hard.
a ticking time bomb. Even if you're testing everything, even if you're wearing gloves, and even if you like have it all, it's like it's so many, it's so much. No, I can't do it. I want to be the cool person that has pairs and trios of all the really cool rat snakes, but
People will shit on someone for having a single species collection because it doesn't have like the prestige of something. And I'm like, well, why? Why is that not acceptable when that person is
I
perfecting the
think
species
that
instead of
the
fucking around with
only people that
30
get super
species?
shit on for only having one species is the ball python industry, and they only have ball pythons. So everybody's like, "Oh, you're just in that because it looks cool and you want to make money. You don't actually care about reptiles." Is what they're trying. I think is what they're trying to say. Us only ball pythoners.
Well, I think people will shit on only retic people, only burn people, only boa people. The only thing they don't shit on, if they're only that, is if it's something hard, like a chondro
Chondro, yeah.
or emerald tree boas or just scrub pythons. Like if they were like, I'm just gonna do fucking scrub pythons, they'd be like, cool, you're trying something hard and you're trying to perfect it. But if someone did the same thing with a ball python, they'd be like, you're a fucking scrub noob. Fuck you. You're just puppy milling or something. And I'm like, are they puppy milling if they're trying to find the best, most saleable, best eating, best conformation, best breeding, best, like that person is finding the best in their collection and then breeding the shit out of that to everything to make a better ball python. Why don't they get any sort of credit, Jana? I don't know either. These are the benefits of having a Noah's Ark collection. There are benefits. This is not a one-sided diatribe.
Oh, it's just not going to be an all negative episode.
No. Well, it will be.
Okay.
We'll drive it into the ground eventually, but.
Oh, okay. Cool. This collection building strategy keeps the maximum number of eggs in the maximum number of baskets, pun intended. So if all of a sudden, Mexican black king snakes explode in the market and they were, $100 snake and now they're a $500 snake, you've got a pair of those.
Right. So you could hold back females quickly to like raise up, to be ready, or maybe you had a trio or whatever.
You're relevant in the market swings.
Right away. The other thing is if you have a bad season for one species, you have 15 others that could do well for you, which is only sort of a good argument because like maybe that whole species wouldn't have done bad. It was just that pair. So if you had 15 of pairs of that species, maybe they all wouldn't have done bad. It was more of like just that pair having the problem. But if you have different species and there's some sort of like environmental issue in your room, like it got too hot or it didn't get cold enough and that species didn't do well, that entire species wouldn't be kaput for you because the other ones would be okay. This is like more of a problem with like if you couldn't get your room cold enough for your like diamond pythons to go or whatever over the winter. Well, then your IJs might still go because they're a warmer breeder anyway. So having different species would be a benefit. And this one I think is why most people Noah's Ark is so they can bring diverse species to like a reptile show on the table. I don't know why, but people are always weirdly attracted to wholesalers' tables at shows because there's always like a variety. And they're drawn into that variety. They're just like a bunch of little colubrids, a bunch of ball pythons, a bunch of boas, some retics, some spiders. Like it looks like a pet store or whatever, which is basically what it is. And so people are always on the Facebook groups around here. That was the only table with anything good on it or whatever, like anything interesting. And then you're like, okay, well, they all got crypto. So congratulations for your interesting disease-infested animal. Do you want to hunt down the person who has Nelson's milk snakes, or do you want to go find it on the wholesaler table where you'll probably get Nelson's milk snakes because they get wholesaled a lot? I don't know. So if you have a diverse table because you have a diverse collection, you might be able to draw in more of the like looky-loos who might be there looking at crested geckos, but then will see your milk snake or whatever.
And they're like, I'm getting both of those.
Right, because they don't necessarily want a ball python all the time. And so you can have repeat buyers coming back and be like, I bought a ball python from you before and I want another pet, but I don't want the same thing. Something else is on the table that's different and might be exciting for them. And I think you can still bring diversity to a table. You just have to be like, A, what is the composition of the table? And B, can you have colonies that are large enough to produce those babies while still keeping in mind the other sort of failings in the con section? A lot of people don't do that. They just buy a pair. They're just like, hopefully it'll make my table diverse.
You should definitely test drive a species before buying 30 of them. So having sets of pairs allows for trial period, but as previously mentioned, your sample size is very small, so you might not be getting a true assessment of that species. Like you're doing that with hognose.
Right. So most hognose eat better than hogwartses did, is my understanding on the internet. But
does your male eat well?
Yeah, he eats great. But if
how many did
I
she
should have bought like 5 or something. Ideally, I should have gotten the hognose, been like, this was good, and then just bought maybe 4 or 5 more females in the same time period. And so I would have 4 or 5 more come into size now. Just never did. Mistake. Another mistake.
Yeah, but now you're moving to a place where hognoses are obnoxious to have.
Right, so it's fine. I think that it's still true. Every time I only buy 2 of something, I should have bought more of the same thing.
Right. Okay.
Every time. I've never not been like, shit, I don't need more Japanese rat snakes. I do need more because I could test her albinism now or whatever. You know, these ones are being little shits for starting to eat. Not most Japanese rat snakes supposedly aren't like that. So is it the male's problem? Is it the female's problem? If I paired them to different parents, I could see like who was the parent that was throwing babies that want to eat only chick-scented pinkies.
Are you having to scent these ones?
Yeah.
Or are they doing better?
These little fucks. 100%.
Did you have to cut up your little ducky?
I've been using chick right now because that's most of what I have. Only one has eaten scented and one is eating live and the others are still refusing. And they'll eat it eventually. But they're not supposed to be this picky. So I think it's a pair problem.
So what are you going to do about that? Are you going to get... Because you only buy babies, right?
No, I would buy adults if they weren't going to die or come with a respiratory infection that persisted. I bought those Russian rat snakes.
Yeah, but now they're fertilizer.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Mistakes. If you're going to buy adults, you have to assume some percentage of them will end up like the Russian rat snakes and have something wrong with them. Or some of them will be good, like the Japanese rat snakes, and they'll be perfectly fine. Which one is it going to be?
You don't know.
You don't know until you spend the money on them and you get them. Because it's the same with ball pythons. Like, even if you got a testing guarantee, you and I both know you can buy a ball python on either gender that never breeds.
Yep.
Or doesn't breed for a long time, or tries to breed and has nothing good to show for it.
It's real scary when you spend a lot of money on a male.
Yeah, or a female that just doesn't want to go till they're 8 or something. That happens too. But I 100% have a female that's 5 now. And she might be going now for the first time in her life. It's fine that they do that. All snakes are different. But some of them could never go. So since adult colubrids are less expensive than like an adult ball python equivalent, there's like an argument of like, do you want to try to buy some to produce it sooner? Adults, I mean. And just take the risk and just eat the money if it doesn't work out, or don't. I mean, buying babies is always a good bet. You got to decide in which situation is the risk worth it. Like the Japanese rat snakes, I bought both of them as adults, and they were just fine.
You need more.
My problem is they're big and basically at least semi-arboreal, so they need big cages, but I would like more. The other problem is going deep in some species will flood the market for that species. If someone wakes up tomorrow and assembles 30 of a particular species and then starts cranking out that number of animals for a large or low demand animal like an anaconda or a rare colubrid, there probably isn't enough interest in the market to even absorb that many new babies, especially from you, maybe like a new person. The question starts to be like, can you drum up enough interest in your own sort of new colony of X species to place the amount of animals you would need given whatever the fecundity of your species is? So that would be like an argument against colony breeding and just having a pair or 2.
Because you're not going to flood your market. And
yeah.
You're not gonna...
Who wants 5,000 green anacondas, Jana? Does anybody?
No. I mean, no. Can they even like feed another animal? Could they be fodder for something? Like, yeah, no, I have no idea why you would breed anacondas.
Right. And the question is also true for pick like a random, even just rare python, like olive pythons or water pythons. They're okay. People like them. People like to collect them in pairs or trios because they know there's not that much demand for them. And if they just like slammed 10 females and had 10 clutches a year, what would they do with all those things? So that's an argument for not having a colony of them. But in my opinion, what you should do is just have the colony so you can have selection criteria for like good eaters or females that don't kill their males. That would be a good idea in those species anyway. You can have a selection criteria. You just don't breed them every year. You breed them every other year. So maybe you have more animals.
Or you have
less
multiple
production.
pairs and you can swap up who you're pairing that year, but only breed one pair a year.
Right. And
So you
most
have
pythons
more
would be
diverse
like, that's
babies.
cool. I think someone doesn't need to jump up to 30 females of the species. You could start with like, I'm going to have a 3-5 colony of the species, not a pair. So I can pick the best ones, do some selective breeding, and decide to expand or contract or breed or not breed based on the market. You know, if you have babies left over from last year and it's October of the next year, you didn't need to breed again. You could start to gauge how much you can
Then
sell.
you probably don't need to be doing brumation.
Right, or just throw, in Python's case, they like to breed every other year anyway. Like, slow down the feeding. They won't necessarily want to build follicles if you slow their feeding down, and they certainly aren't going to die if you put them on like a slow mode. They'll be fine. Let them take a year off. That's cool. Like, there's people who run, Brettles pythons. They're pretty big. And they're cool, they're red, but they're really big. They're bigger than boas, most boas. Do we need 100 clutches of Brettles pythons in the U.S. every year?
No.
No, probably not. No. They're cool. We should have people breeding them and selective breeding for color and doing stuff, but the market just doesn't support that many Brettles pythons going to good homes. I think there's a balance there where you can figure it out and still have more than the like Noah's Ark pair style bullshit that I'm so over at this point. Final thoughts, Jana?
Test driving a species might be the whole point of your collection and not breeding. If establishing and farting around with species, not really caring about the breeding aspect is what gets your rocks off, then any breeding snake sales arguments probably don't matter to you.
No. If you're having pets for fun, as always,
have fun.
Yeah, who cares?
Carry on.
Yeah, please have 2 of every kind and do whatever. Just try not to cross-contaminate and get them all sick. But besides that, I literally don't care. But if someone's like, I'm in it for a business, and you're already looking at the grass is already green at like another species every year, like getting bored. Those kind of keepers?
Mm-hmm.
They're chasing sales, chasing trends. Are you ever going to...
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Especially with animals that have to grow up and get bigger and...
Yeah.
You need invested time.
And I can definitely see how that could like make it fun to get excited about a new species or kind of, if you're like, oh, I've been into snakes for 5 years. Now I'm bored. I would like to add geckos. But a lot of times they're adding like multiple kinds of geckos. And then the next year they added another species of snake that's slightly different. Like Justin Kapilka didn't become Justin Kapilka because he like played around with 10 species.
He's got a room for that though.
Now he does, but he didn't for fucking 18 years or something.
Yeah, 20 years before he did that.
Yeah, when you become an old man.
Now I got this all dialed in.
Yeah, with a Porsche.
Now I'm going to play over
then
here.
you can play. But right now, anybody...
Porsche and gate with my freaking... Yeah.
Anybody who claims to be a business and is doing this, this is a hobby. You're your hobby right now. This is a hobby behavior. This isn't a business behavior. You're supposed to be like figuring out the market for whatever you're doing. And if you don't like what you're doing, then go ahead and switch to whatever you think you're going to like. But the like dilly-dallying, selling off, before they even produce some of the times. People will buy 2 boas and be like, I want to try boas. They'll have them for 2 years. And they'll be like, I don't like boas. You had 2 for 2 years. Do you know anything about boas or selling boas or keeping, like, you know something about keeping, but your business was great. Don't do that. Don't even bother getting into them if you're going to do that. So this is in reference to collections that are having fun. So collections that are having fun, or you just want to run your business this way, You need to be extremely careful what species are near which other species. The between species hygiene needs to be at the highest level possible. I'm talking gloves. I'm talking new tongs for new species, like a tong per species. It's not cool to have a fucking zoo, is my point. You're not cool. You're a liability. We don't have tests for everything that's important. Like the Guangdong Mandarin rat snake virus does not have a test. I know it exists, and I know it kills colonies in China all the time. Whee! Cool. Great. We don't have a full or adequate understanding of all of the kind of infectious diseases that could exist in any species of snake, lizard, turtle, whatever at any time. We just have a very small understanding. So you need to not touch different species to each other. Ever. Please. Jesus. In general, the idea of a reptile room being the dedicated space where all 20 of your species live, and you make Instagram reels where you're like panning over and there's all these bioactive, that seems cool because you have like a private zoo. But to me, it's not cool, and it should be discouraged as much as possible because that's just like a forward fly nightmare, one to the other to the other. If something gets in your room that we don't know of or we do know of, because testing can't sort of discover everything we need to know to prevent things from happening. And I think like 400 people will hate me for saying any of this because most people are stuck in one room. Their wife hates them, does not love them enough, not enough BJs. And they have only one room in the house.
Not enough BJs in this house, that's for sure. You only get the one room.
One room for snakes. They can't have snakes anywhere else. So they have to quarantine in that room. They have to have their main collections in that room. They have to do all kinds of crazy stuff. All of it in that room. And that's the only way the marriage keeps going. Get a new wife. I don't know. Like, you need more rooms. If you're going to have more species, you need more rooms. Or you need to decide what's actually going to go in that room and be really intentional about it. If you want to do
a colubrid room.
Yeah, or even less than that, because king snakes tolerate crypto better than corn snakes. So
that's fair.
The ones that tolerate crypto well, they can have a room. And then the ones that die from crypto, they can have their own room together. It would be hard to make the decisions because you also need to keep in mind like temperature, region that they're from, country or whatever. Like I don't want people keeping Dumerals boas in the same rack as Imperator boas. They're boas, but they're from different parts of the world. They don't need to be near each other. But it's hard because I understand that people have like space limitations. But that's why less species is better. Because you're having less chances for stuff to cross-contaminate and cause an issue. Also quarantine in a different room. But I know,
always quarantine in a different room.
Yeah, lots of people don't though. So
quarantining in a room with different species is not quarantine.
Oh,
just
God.
Because there's
different species.
Because there's no other species in that room like the one you're quarantining does not mean that counts as a quarantine. Quarantine means no other animals in that room.
Right. Yeah, and this is like really hard because I think people have like legitimate limitations to their space. They only have one room. Like most of the people I know only have one room. And I'm just like, I don't know any good advice for that situation.
I don't know what to do for you if you only have one room because I have snakes in every room of
every
my house.
room the light touches, as far as the eye can see. Right.
And occasionally the sunroom.
Yeah. But I think if they had less species, this would sort of self-solve the problem. If they were like, okay, I'm going to focus on my 3 favorites. And so this wall will be one, this wall will be one, this wall will be one. And we'll quarantine in the hall closet. But people are like, no, I want to try everything and buy stuff at shows and just let it dribble in. Blah. Anyway, that's Noah's Ark collections. My complicated feelings about them. I mean, you could have a one species collection, but then like accidentally have a bunch of Noah's Ark pairs, and that part is still a fuck up. Like I have mini boas, mini balls, mini corn snakes, but not enough of like the Asian colubrids to be doing them correctly, in my opinion. So if you have like a ball python collection and 2 random blood pythons, that's a mistake. What are you doing? What is your plan with those 2? Or people?
I don't have a plan, Jessica. What do I do?
I just bought them for fun. Yeah, or people
trying to have some fun. I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and it is fun getting new things. I just don't know what it means because a lot of times those ones that you're not that passionate about, that you're just trying out, you end up moving them on anyway. So is it that fair or fun? I don't know. That's it. Let's do news. New news. Vision Products has released tubs with deli cup holders. And
What?
I know this is news. This is the news section, and I have brought news to the table. And they've also launched like a plastic holder that can go in your already purchased ones that is perfectly fit so it doesn't get flipped.
What?
That you can set into it without buying a different one. And the prices are startlingly similar to Freedom Breeder, sometimes cheaper depending on what you're buying. And they also come in holes on the side or no holes on the side cup holder and in gray or clear. New news.
I just bought all mine from Freedom Breeder. I would have totally bought them from Vision.
Right, the Vision ones are less crunchy. You notice that? Like they're a little bit more pliable, so if you drop them, they don't crack on the edges as often.
I haven't dropped any of my Freedom Breeder ones yet, but I've dropped a few Vision and broke them.
I've dropped all kinds of things. I'm a barbarian. A bull in a china shop. I've only broken Freedom Breeder tubs so far. That they offered.
My brain has just died because of this offer of water dish holders. I need to go buy these right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's very helpful once you have a lot of snakes to have like a standardized place to put a holder. I just like that they have like whole ones and not whole ones. So you can have the not whole ones in the Vision rack and the whole ones in a PVC rack if you were going to keep Vision. Yes. You don't need the extra airflow. So they like thought about that. And they made you all the versions. So I love
it when they actually like make intelligent decisions that reflect the hobby.
What they need to do is make less holes in the standard shelf. Like you could buy a shelf with 50% as many holes as they have in the one they currently have, in my opinion. Like you should be able to buy like less holes. Like you can for Freedom Breeder tops or ARS tops.
Yep, you can do the 25, 50, or 75.
Right, they just need to sell different amounts of holes. Because obviously you can go through and like tape up your holes, but that would look like shit. But I don't know why they don't offer different percentages.
It would also be hard to clean.
It'd be a pain in the dick to clean.
I get a little worried about like that kind of stuff and cleaning. Because I thought about it. I thought about taping up all the holes above when I was using it as a hatchling, but I'm like, diseases everywhere.
Well, if you just kept baby ball pythons in it and you weren't.
I know. It still skeeks me out a little.
Did you look at that Freeway clown pine yet?
I did.
What do you think about it?
Looks a lot better than it did a couple of sheds ago. You are correct.
Yeah, I thought the Freeway clown pine was much better. We really took a massive dump on it a couple weeks ago.
It sucked so bad before it darkened up.
Yeah, he shouldn't have even
showing it.
Yeah.
It just looks like dog shit. It looks much better now, but it's still not. I'm still disappointed.
As
which isn't his fault. It's not his fault. I'm just
Freeways
disappointed.
in general.
I feel like I said, the yellow belly or the gravel clown pied, I feel like looks just as awesome. Maybe you want the allelic combination. It makes a more powerful breeder. But for like the wow factor, it just didn't. I thought it would be cooler. Thought it'd be more neon, and it's not.
Well, I think that's the problem with Clown Pied. I know you're in Clown Pied and you're really excited about it, but I think Clown Pied will always suck a lot out of a combo. Between Clown's tendency to fade out and look like shit, and Pied's tendency to have small saddles with not a lot of information on them, they are even though it's a cool combo, they're working together to make whatever the rest of the combo is be less and less impactful. So I don't know anything in the world. I'm making like GHI 100% het clown, 50% het pieds. I'm like, obviously that's fine. I'll just make like super GHI clown pieds. They might be all white or something because like it's super GHI. Like who fucking knows? Yeah, I don't know. And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's fine. It's more cool almost, not the double, but a clutch of clowns and pieds and clown pieds mixed together with codoms sprinkled in. So you have
That's
like a
gonna be
diversity.
really hot.
That's
Yeah.
like what's most fun to me, which sounds weird and stupid to say, but here I am being dumb. One of these days, ball pythons will be like corn snakes. Everything is everywhere and you're just refining what you already have, and clutches are full of all kinds of shit. And you're like, oh, okay, it just doesn't matter. It's all pretty cool. A new ball python NFT was released last week now. Did you get a chance to look at that website? It's ballpythonnfts.io for everybody at home. And it's .io because they want to pretend to be cool. So these are images of ball pythons of different morphs that you have to buy packs of to put them in your ball python wallet. And if you get pied and albino, you can try to breed them together in your wallet and make albino pieds. It's like a game, but they're making people buy with real money.
How do you think it's going to do?
Hopefully it does nothing and goes away as soon as possible, because how embarrassing.
They spent a lot of time on it, though.
I know, it looks nice, but I just... Remember how Brian Barczyk used to have... It was talking about getting a game developer to make a video game that was supposed to be like the ball python breeding, just on like an increased time scale. And so you could like
a video game makes sense.
You could get like a new morph from the wild, or you could buy one at a show. And so like there was a gamification of the process, and I'm like, that would be fine. But this is real money. Gambling on packs, digital packs of ball pythons to try to get the morphs in the packs. And they state the rarity, but they're not...
Can you sell your cards to other people?
I don't think so yet. And you also aren't the only person who can hit it. So if someone buys enough packs, it's not unique to you like other NFTs are, where you're only selling like the one NFT that's a piece of art or whatever. So I was just like, I gotta go. I wanted to announce it because sometimes we do news. And I thought that was news. It was just...
I'm glad somebody's paying attention, because I sure as hell wasn't.
There's a lot of news that I don't talk about. Like, I don't think this is a news show. Is this a news show?
No.
It's mostly like, if I saw something weird that I thought we had something to say about it. God, the amount of topics that I ignore is astronomical. Even if I have something to say about it, I'm trying to be nice to people. Am I being nice?
Maybe our next episode needs to just be news so I can hear all the news. Because I am out of the fucking loop right now. I got to get back in.
Yeah, there's been a lot of news. Scales family's getting out. Scales family is within our state. What do you think about that, Jana?
I am really shocked because they're hard into it. And like the Urban Camo Project and stuff.
They had a strong YouTube presence last year, and they
haven't this year.
Mm-hmm.
They both work, so I don't even know how they were doing it anyway. But they were doing they have like a full rat shed. They have like an addition that they built for their business, and now they're just out.
Supposedly they're trying to sell their collection intact. They don't want to part it out. What do you think about that?
I wanted to inquire, but I can't buy it, so it feels shady to inquire.
Oh, I was told,
announced
they were asking for a above $100,000 asking price.
Really?
Yes, that's been publicly said.
Did they have like a list out of what they have?
No, you'd have to inquire. That's just what it was said on I think it was What's in Your Cup. He was just talking about other people who were getting out, which I didn't know any of them, but there was like 4 people who announced they were getting out in the same week. And this was one that we knew, so I heard about it. But they were one that was not trying to part it out.
I did know that they were trying to sell it as a whole collection.
Right. This is all on their Instagram, so this isn't like...
proprietary.
Right, or secret or something.
Anyway, it's just shocking because, like I said, they were full gung-ho media presence, and it'd be interesting to hear the dirt as to why. I mean, but shit happens. I mean, look at me.
Well, I mean, their Instagram looks like they weren't getting out. Like, they didn't, like, drop off in terms of posts. You know what I mean? I, like, looked like there was, like, missing posts. They weren't posting every day, but they weren't, like... They just bought a new snake not that long ago. So
it is really odd, yeah.
Right, so it's probably something personal or family life or whatever. I just thought it was interesting that they wanted to sell the whole collection.
I feel like that's a lot harder to do.
It's a lot harder to do, and you must sell it at a bigger discount.
And $100,000, even if that's what it's really valued at, market value,
Right.
not going to get a lot of people going to just drop 100K.
Right, and no offense to their collection, but it was very specific. If someone's not into super cine combos that are half probability to be kinked and dead, that's
Every single one of their urban camo clutches had defects. That's why I don't like that project. Ugh. Gorgeous
Right.
snake.
Some people are not into that project. Who is the person that wants their particular collection? Like two
Right.
people in
I
the
think
whole
you're
country?
better off selling your breeding projects if you want to go in clumps.
Right. Even if you can. I don't know. It's hard. There's like an interesting debate about clumps versus singles versus the racks plus certain clumps. Which one's better? For the most part, if you're like forced to sell out and you don't have the time to sell slowly, you are taking a loss.
Right, for
sale
sure.
price. So the speed at which you must sell is a problem. Let's put it that way.
It's also a weird time in the season to be selling too.
It's totally weird. Yeah, I don't.
Like, this is not when you would get out because, I mean, I have an incubator full of eggs. I have a lot of gravid females and I have a lot of eggs in my incubator. So if I was like selling my collection right at this moment,
I mean, maybe that's what motivates them to sell it as a group right now because they're selling gravid females and eggs
clutches
too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just thought it was crazy, and sorry about that. And hopefully you get back in the hobby one day. I don't know. I never met them. They were at the July show. I just didn't. The July last year.
I mean, I met them, like I said, hey to them, but I didn't like have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
They brought their urban camos, and I was like, wrong show for that, dude. Gorgeous, gorgeous in person. Holy crap, pictures don't do the urban camo any justice. But like I said, I'm not into hatching gorgeous no-faced snakes.
Or pretzel snakes.
Or pretzels. So, yeah, that's just not my jam.
Jana, what's grinding my gears this week?
Something about the word dwarf.
Oh my god, please God save me from the word dwarf. Okay. So you know in retics, the word dwarf kind of means something. Like they've decided that these localities are super dwarf in their opinion. And these localities are dwarf in their opinion. And so if it's 50% a super dwarf and 25% dwarf and 25% mainland, you can sort of guess an adult size maybe. That does not happen in boas. It is fucking all over the place. Dear God in heaven, please save me from the word dwarf.
Not dwarf boas.
So
Is that what you're saying?
Oh God. So there are boas from Mexico all the way down to Argentina. Both sides of the Andes Mountains. Both sides of the mountains in Mexico. So that's a lot of space for different size boas to exist.
Yes.
Within species and within subspecies. And just within locality. Because Brazil's fucking pretty big last time I checked. So there's a lot of just within Brazil space for boas to be different sizes. There was a post on Facebook, someone was talking about their pet, and they're like, it's a dwarf pastel het call albino. Call albino, and most pastel lineages are from Colombia. Colombian boas females are from between 6 to 8 feet. Is that a dwarf?
I guess if you're comparing it to a retic.
Right.
But no, that word should not be in there.
The word dwarf is bastardized and like dwarf washed. I think pet stores are like, it's a dwarf. And it's just like anything, like
It's
literally
anything under
under what?
10 feet.
Yeah, is that it?
Look at my dwarf ball python.
So in most localities, most boas don't even get to 10 feet. There are very few localities where like the females are regularly even 8 feet. I would consider 8 feet not a dwarf. Last time I checked.
Humongous.
I would consider 6 feet not a dwarf. Just smaller than 8 feet. I mean, we're talking about numbers here. This is difficult. So then it's like, okay, so what is a dwarf? What about mainland Hondurans? They're 6 feet.
Well, also boas, can't you control how big a male gets based on how you fed it?
Yeah, and how big a female gets. and how big a retic gets. You can control any snake by feeding it less or more slowly. It's just like if you fed it on something like a median feeding trajectory, if the average size was 6 feet, is that a dwarf? To me, no, is what I'm saying. I've had people inquire about my snakes wanting dwarf boas, and I'm like, the males get 4 feet, and they're like, that's too big. I'm like, what size do you want? You want a rosy boa. Is that what you're telling me? Because
you want a garter snake.
Yeah, you want a Bimini blind snake. I don't know what you want because you're asking for something that basically doesn't exist. It exists on a very few locality islands. Crawl Cay, Cocker Cay, Tarahumara mountain boas, where the females might hit 5 feet, but maybe more like 4 feet. And the males are 3 or 4 feet, right? A size-controlled Colombian male that never gets over 4 feet is the same size as a female Tarahumara. Is that not the same enough for people? Like, these are people like trying to buy pets.
That's not a dwarf. No. The word dwarf should not be. I mean, it's different because aren't like dwarf retics 75% the size of a mainland retic? Isn't it a lot?
I don't know. The retic thing is problematic too, because there's only a couple islands that consistently produce animals that no matter how much you feed them will only be 8 to 12 feet, which is still
humongous.
1/3 the potential maximum length of a mainland retic. So that's a dwarf, you know? But most retics don't necessarily get 30 feet. They get more like 25 feet. So then it's like, it's half-ish. And retics are very slight. So that's cool. So I don't fucking know what a dwarf is in a boa. I know the ones that get smaller. So maybe instead of people asking for dwarfs or labeling things as dwarfs, there's even a dwarf thing on Morph Market that's gray. So you can just assign the property of dwarf to any animal.
Oh my gosh.
Any animal you want, it's a dwarf.
People are using that. It's like when they put like gluten-free on things that...
Right, this bacon is gluten-free.
Gluten.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
It's just like a trigger word like for sales.
Yes. And I don't know what to do with it anymore. A lot of people think hog islands are dwarfs, but hog islands can get sometimes up to 6 feet. Were they power fed to get to 6 feet? Maybe. Maybe their real size fed the way they would on the island would be 5 feet, but is that a dwarf? Because the fucking Honduran island boas are around that size too. So are they a dwarf compared to their mainland counterparts? No, they're about the same size.
They're not.
So what is a dwarf in boas? Please tell me, Jana. I don't fucking know. And the other hard part is like people's expectations that boas are gigantic all the time. I mean, you've seen my boas. The biggest
gigantic,
females are
really surprising.
Kind of big, right? They're 7 feet-ish, 6-7 feet.
But they're not what I think of when I think of a big snake. Like, that doesn't seem like... They're not huge. Like, they're not a Burmese or, other things like They are a reasonable sized, larger snake for the everyday person.
Right.
I don't think Burmese and retics should be in pet homes. But I'm saying that it is a reasonable size pet for pet homes. It's very surprising how... I don't know. Every time I see them, I'm just like, I just expected them to be bigger.
Right. Well, I think people, like when they message me on Morph Market, they're like, I need a dwarf. And then I'm like, the mom is 7 feet. And they're like, that's way too big. What do you want? That's a 6-7 foot mom is a normal sized mom who can live very palatially in a 6 foot enclosure. And a 4 foot would be pretty good. That's still too big for you. Then you need to not be looking at boas, is what I'm saying. Go look at a corn snake,
like, because I see them in your vivs. Most of yours are 6 foot vivs, aren't they?
No, they're 4 foot. But my biggest female
they don't seem like they take up very much room in the viv.
Right. I think a pet home should be encouraged to get a 6 foot because that would allow the snake to stretch out completely if it wants to, which they rarely do. I don't know. Whatever. If you're a pet home, go nuts. Cool. But they are pretty comfortable in a 4 footer because they're only 5-6 feet long, the adult females. That's not a dwarf though. That's just how big they are. I just don't understand. I don't understand the market.
They just seem like big ball pythons. They don't seem
I mean,
Enormous.
they are like big ball pythons, but they're more active than big ball pythons. So they would appreciate a shelf, and I mean, a ball python would too. Fuck it. Let's just be honest. Bigger is fine for them. They don't even necessarily need hides because they're just very bold and they don't care. Especially the older they get, they're like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to hang out in the open and just look at you and wait for you to feed me.
Just gonna look at you with puppy dog eyes, like, bitch, you haven't fed me in 6 weeks. I think it's time for a rat.
I just want to reinforce and encourage people not to use the word dwarf in relation to boas. And if you want to inquire about a boa, do not ask if it's a dwarf. Ask the parent's size. What is the mother's size? I think that would be the better indicator if that's like the right snake for you. Like if you really want a snake that comfortably fits end to end in like a V70 or something. I don't know. A corn snake? I don't know.
Get a male boa.
Yeah, get it. Almost every male boa is fine for realsies. But even corn snakes that get to 5 feet, when they curl up, there's just not that much there. It's just like a little dewdrop. Yeah. That's all with dwarfs. The word grinds my gear. The idea grinds my gear. People's perceptions grinds my gears. And I don't think we should just even talk about the word anymore until someone important defines the word dwarf, which maybe should be adult females no larger than 4 feet, which would exclude 90% of all boas in the market.
They just think that that's a retic thing and needs to stay over in the retic thing.
Right. Or if people want a pet that's smaller, they need to pick a species that it just is smaller.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, that's not a thing in other species. You just pick based on what the size you want it to be as an adult. Get a ball python if you want a dwarf boa.
The dwarf retic thing in particular is strange because it
is strange, but it's so ingrained in that project, that species project breeding. Like that's so part of it. Like they to the percentage, you know?
Right, but I don't think it's not right, but I think the problems that large retics have, small retics also have. Maybe I'll leave it at that. They're just smaller.
Yeah, like I said, retics shouldn't be in homes, pet homes. Let's just leave it at that.
Did you watch the AEP Miguel Garcia on MJ's talk session? Okay. The big news was that he was setting up a facility in Mexico for his own snakes.
Yes, he's been saying and visiting Mexico. He announced that to his Patreon people that he was trying to make that happen.
Okay, well, he announced it publicly.
Like a year ago.
Turtle got her master CITES, so they were going to start brokering U.S. sales to Mexico. Not brokering, but like if you wanted to ship to Mexico your ball pythons, you could use Miguel
through him
as the same as some of the other shippers that go to other countries.
Yeah, that's something he's been working on for the last year because the market over there is exploding. So they want things that our market is like tired of,
right,
that they don't have access to for like higher prices than what our market is.
Right. So that was most of it, but he said, and I wanted to tell you, his males breed at 8 months and 700 grams. And he had 22 females that were sub 2 years old, between 900 and 1,200 grams, that developed follicles and were bred. But he didn't say 22 out of how many. So I'm assuming it was like 100 or something, because he holds back a lot.
I don't feel like he has enough racks for it to have been 100.
But he sells a lot of his older females. So you think it was 50?
I just mean like he has like 1, 2, 3.
Right, he doesn't have very many racks.
4, 5. He only has like 5 racks. 6?
But he sells packages of older females all the time. So how many young females does he have? 50?
Well, at least 40. I know, maybe
75?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't say the percent. He just said 22. So that was interesting.
I'm going to guesstimate that that's half of the ones that he bred. Okay. That's still, I haven't had any. You just have one. Has she gone any further?
Yeah, she's at 33 or something. Unless
she's definitely
reabsorbs extremely late. Yeah, she looks gravid to me now. She hasn't ovulated yet, but
0 goose egg, 0 2020s.
I have another one that hit 14 last whatever. So she's doing it. She's like bumped beyond baseline. So she's doing it. So that's 2 out of...
I wonder if they'll all be like later in the season because they're still maturing or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. So maybe he's right, because all of mine are still less than 2.
Because he doesn't even start his season, like start breeding until like January.
That's probably correct around here also. Although I don't know. It depends on the female. But if I had started my younger females in January, that probably would have been smarter. Like their first test lock was later.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because I had to give him a second lock because it's been 3 months in January when I should have just skipped that first one.
Right. He mentioned test pairing, but he said he just doesn't really even worry about weight or age. It's when they hit 14 millimeters. That was his. They're trying to do it.
So he doesn't give him a test lock.
He said he can or whatever, but he doesn't care. So like he doesn't worry about it. He just knows that they're starting to go, and that's when they get their. It didn't imply that he had consistently test paired
them.
But I think it doesn't hurt because it's just one random pair to see if they're ready to do something. It's just, he made it sound like he just ultrasounds and waits till they start to go. And that's his only criteria for continued pairing or whatever. And I'm like, okay. Because I don't think, like the pastel pied that's young, she didn't start to build immediately after her only pairing. It was like 4 months later. So did that really make her start to build? Was that the evidence she needed? Or was it just, she was like, I'm just going to do it because this room's kind of cold, I guess. Meh. She wasn't eating good. She was eating okay or not at all. Much of them weren't eating that good. She just woke up one day and was like, I guess I'm going to be at 20. Whoops. It had really been like 4 months since she had been locked. So I don't know. Remember how I said...
Definitely going to be giving the younger, like the 2-year-old girls, much less male attention
going forward.
Season.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they've only gotten 1 lock every 3 months since September, but that's still... I had a lot of 2020s, so that's still a lot of work for the boys.
Right.
Because now they've each had 2 locks.
Right.
And none of them are doing anything. So it's like, that's still probably like 2 females per male that they didn't need to give 4 locks to.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe just 1 to start it out in January, then just ultrasound from there. Or something like that, depending on like the rhythm of your room or some shit. Because I've had some that I like paid more attention to because they were eating better, like lock them more, like every 2 months, because they were eating a lot and they acted like they might be thinking about it, but they never built follicles. They just kept accepting locks and having fun, you know, super sluts, if you will.
Super sluts,
but never built follicles.
Just not producers. Those are takers, not givers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all know a couple girls like that. It's fine. I agree. I don't know. What's most important to me is like vigilance with ultrasounding, which sounds stupid. At least every 6 or 8 weeks or so, once they are potentially on some sort of trajectory where they could decide to start building follicles. Because once they decide to go, they seem to go extremely fast if they want to. There's the slow growers and then like the exploders. And I guess you could miss a female exploding if you're not really paying that much attention to her. You stumble into a female and she's already at 20. Why did she decide to do that by herself?
Well, I had one from 1 month to the next. Went from nothing. Should not even have had her first lock yet because she late in September. It went from nothing. I think I talked about this last episode, but nothing to like 25 in a month.
Right. So maybe they should
literally
maybe they should be ultrasounded every month. Which is a lot of work.
And then yeah, and like so she's already
a lot of work with not a lot of payout potentially. If you're just looking for signs in tens or hundreds of young females coming up, seems crazy. Because you got to do it. I mean, once they have follicles, you know you don't need to necessarily ultrasound them to confirm. You just need to confirm size. Which you can.
No, I like ultrasounding. I like seeing the increase. It's like for me, it's like when I like to weigh my females. It just gives me like that little dopamine hit.
Yeah, I guess.
Something like measurable progress. I mean, I don't need to every month, but I do it for my own.
I just find it like
enjoyment.
Really demoralizing and boring to ultrasound 45 female ball pythons in a hot room that have no follicles. That's pretty boring to me. I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, if they have follicles, it's more interesting because you can see it, literally anything instead of wondering if it's a male. But once the number starts to go up, you're like, I don't want to do this every 4 weeks. Maybe every 6.
It is really demoralizing on a few that I've had for a while that I'm still like, I see no follicles at all. And I'm like, I know you laid last year for me, so I know you're not a male, but there is literally nothing in here, and you're like a month past when you laid last year. What the fuck?
She didn't want to do nothing for you. She doesn't care. I did also breed. Remember I said I tried 21 males that were over 500 grams?
Mm-hmm.
And none of them locked. Well, one of them did this week.
Oh, good.
Just randomly. The biggest of them.
These are balls or corns?
Ball pythons. Just a random update.
Which one?
The special het clown.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't need him. Sorry, dude. But, so, like, hopefully he just makes a special clown of either gender, and I'll just move on with my life. I'd take either gender to combo with. He was the biggest with, like, we talked about his penises much too long last time. So he's like right at that. I think he was a July baby, so he would be 8 months old, 700 grams. So that sort of fits like the narrative. But when people are like, my 500 gram locks constantly, I'm like, that must be a 12-month-old. I still think that's true. My 500 grams that are 8 months old do not seem to give a shit.
No, I don't think I've ever had, and they have to be 12. And even then, like the first month or two, they don't have it figured out. So it's usually more like 14 months.
Right. Well, this one is younger than that. He just, I don't know, he's been like one of those males, maybe not males, ball pythons that'll hunt and like really be like outgoing and staring at you and wondering what you're doing and begging for food and acting like a boa. So he's like,
yeah, I know those types. Those are my favorite
they'll
ones.
Come out and they'll periscope right away and they'll give you the eye. So he's like,
yeah. You open their bin and they just go,
a very confident male that likes to eat constantly and would eat 5 times a week if I gave it to him. So he's the first one to mature of the 2021 male crop. So that's interesting. That's all for ball pythons. What clutches laid this week for you and last week? What are we up to? 400 clutches?
1, 2, 3. I just pulled clutch number 9 today, and in the last 10 days I've had 4 clutches laid, and I have 3 more due
that you know of.
3 more
that have shed, I guess.
They're shed.
Okay all right, that's cool. Anything good that's already in the incubator that you're looking forward to? That should be crazy.
Maybe not crazy to you. You hate this project, but my highway female to my pastel leopard highway male laid, and I'm really hoping for some leopard super gravels in that clutch.
Well, 1 in 4.
1 in 4.
Yeah, I would be hopeful. How many eggs?
6.
All right, that's hopeful, but pretty good. I don't hate.
It was her first year. So
I prefer super gravels to highways. I don't hate any snake, except for
pastel.
That's
the lady with all pastels.
Yeah.
My daughter paired her black pastel banana to our snake that parthenode last year, and she's black pewter champagne.
Why did you do that?
I let her pick, and she had like a couple of. She got to pick 2 snakes to pair her male to.
Oh.
Just for fun.
I know, but it's a super black pairing. You already had a problem with kinkers, and there was no other reason to do it besides she wanted to do it.
Yeah, just she wanted to, and I didn't know what to do with her because I didn't want to give her an important male and be mad. So it is what it is, and she's either going to partheno again or she's not. So
you won't be able to tell them apart. That's the biggest problem I see.
Oh, because the male could be super black pastels too.
So you won't know if she parthenode or not. You know what I me? If you hit
see,
supers,
maybe I'll be like, "What the fuck am I doing?" But
I don't. It's
she
fine.
can also make like gray matters. My daughter thinks those ones are cool. So Hopefully we produce one of those just for funsies.
But you won't know. I guess if it's dead, it's a super. I don't know.
Yeah,
that
you
wasn't
can
your
tell.
best test pairing of a possible
No, it
president
wasn't my
female.
best. But I also, like, I didn't even know if I was going to pair her. And so
You should
my
have just
kid
picked
was like,
a banana or something. What did you have?
it is a banana something,
I
but I
know,
also
just
have Black
banana.
Pastel.
Yeah.
I don't have a just banana. Sorry.
Oh, you're killing me. Yeah, that one. I know
you
you're
wouldn't have
doing
done
my
that.
best. That one, I'm not sure I would agree with. Because it
That's
doesn't help
fine.
you to learn anything about the female necessarily. You're just going to still have to keep her another year.
That's fine. It made my kid really happy.
All right, then that's all that matters. All right. Did your ARS come?
No, it comes on the 10th.
Okay. You'll have to report
But I got
back on
shipping
how much
notice.
you're going to struggle
Yay! How much I'm going to struggle?
with putting
Doesn't
it
it come
together.
assembled?
No, you bought the hybrid. Did you not buy the hybrid?
I did buy the hybrid.
Oh, yeah. It's like a multi-hour adventure. Get wine, maybe weed if you're into that. Put on a couple of movies. Try not to kill yourself. That's my advice.
And I get to do it solo.
Yeah, there's also like,
Yay.
you know those screwdrivers that are straight? And you can like angle them? Go buy one of those. The automatic ones. Don't get like the big handheld ones because they're too big to fit into the little holes. You have to screw hundreds of things together. Have fun.
I thought it came together.
The expensive ones do.
I want a refund.
I would invite somebody over because you can like make the levels, like have someone sit and make a level, and you sit and make a level, and they sit and make a level. It takes a long time. It's not hard. It's just labor intensive.
Does it come on a pallet or does it come on just in boxes and boxes and boxes?
No, it's on a pallet in one gigantic box.
But the big cardboard box is not a complete ARS rack.
Yeah, it's in pieces.
Pieces.
Yeah. If you buy the intact one, it comes on a pallet in, like, the levels are not nested. They're just, like, laying on top of each other to make it shorter. But it's easy to put together because you just re-nest them when you buy it, the metal version. But I've bought hybrids for my last two to save money. And then it just takes fuck all forever to put it together. Worse than a vision rack, which is saying something. Because fuck those things. They're also a pain in the dick, but for different reasons.
Well, I have that.
Jana will
fun to
report
look
back.
forward to. Yeah, we'll report back next week when it's still in the fucking box.
I mean, you don't need the ARS rack right this second, right?
No, not at all.
All right, so then it doesn't really matter anyway. Like
But I don't want it out in the weather.
Oh yeah, bring it in. All the electrical panels and stuff are just. It's like a bunch of shit flopped into a box. Let me be honest. Like the tubs are loose in there. They put stuff so it doesn't damage each other. But it's just like a bunch of shit in a box. The biggest box you've ever seen. You can definitely play like a ball pit with your kids. Because that's what I do with it every time. It's pretty fun. But
my kids are gonna love that.
Yeah.
I've got one in
or a
particular
really
that
cool like kids house or
she wants
something.
to live in a box forever.
You can do that with this box. This is a benefit. I've had lots of corn snakes pipping. Sapphire was bred by Ron Burgundy. So this is a Miami Tessera to Miami Tessera. Remember I thought he didn't catch her right?
Uh-huh.
And there were some weak veins. Some of the eggs did end up dying, but most of them were fine. They both proved het amel, which I didn't know. And I did hatch a little
The weirdo
mutant who was very pale. I have
Could
no
that have
idea
been
what
from the other male?
No, she was never bred to anyone else.
Oh, okay. You just didn't know if he got it, if they were going to be fertile.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him lock her, but he just was like, corn snakes are normally like nice and rapey. Like right away. I got this. And then they're done. But he was slow and scared, and I just leave him in there overnight. I'd be like, go figure it out, boyfriend. He did figure it out. So good job. I don't know what it is about amels this year. It's cool.
It's not something you like, though.
I know. I like candy canes pretty good. They're cool.
I just want to see all your corn snakes. I feel like you're posting pictures of like one or two babies, but you're not posting pictures of like the clutch.
Oh, well, because I'm going to do a clutch
Post
1 and
shed.
clutch 2 post-shed clutch reveal The first clutch is all cinder,
Okay.
so it's pretty boring. So I needed to wait until there was a clutch that was complex to like pair with it.
This one's pretty complex, right?
Yeah, so
Especially
there's
with Mr. Mystery.
yeah, so that's will be like a fun YouTube video, I think. And then
So what do you
Molly's,
surmise that he is? Because he's orange.
I guess that he was sunrise.
And what's that?
It looks like an amel. It's born almost looking like a snow, but with like these little faded pink patches. But then it gains color through time. And then as an adult, it like will lose color in patches again. It's like a color IMG in corn
Oh, okay.
snakes.
So it's not like more the recessives.
It's probably its own standalone recessive, but people only see it in amel. Because that's the only way you figure it out. That it'll be born pale, turn dark, and then look different as an adult. I don't know. That's what it looks like. But there aren't a bunch of sunrises in the clutch. There's only one. So is this just like, an incubation error snake? Or...
Could one be like a Partheno baby?
Well, we talked about how Partheno and Quillurid uses a dead snake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It could be like a random mutation also.
So what are you gonna do with that snake?
We gotta keep it.
You gonna keep
we
that
don't
one?
fucking dinker around like it going out of style around here. Yeah, I don't know. He also
Did you see that and you were just like mine?
Well, I saw him in
Or
the
did you see
incubator.
that and you were just like, eh?
Saw him in the incubator, and I'm like, I have a white snake in there. It looked white through the incubator. I'm like, I took it out. I'm like, this fucker is see through. It has actually black rings around its
I can see it. Yeah.
eyes. I mean, you can't see it in the picture, I don't think.
Oh, no, I just mean you can see that he's see-through. I didn't know you were gonna say eyes.
He has
He's cool. I like him.
He has
He's like,
black rings
sherbet.
around his eyes. Like, I have never seen an amel corn snake with black in its eyes still. So he's like a weirdo, is what I'm saying. Weirdos aren't always genetic. I do want to keep him I didn't even check the gender. It doesn't matter. I'll just keep him for fun. He could be my weirdo pet, even if he's not genetic.
He's a really, really fun color.
Yeah, and he won't stay that color. I'm sure he'll change. But he's like, looks green. Most people are like yellowish. In person, he's like that weird green color you get on snows. Like, that's how see-through he is. I'm like, this
Interesting.
snake is weird. It'll be fun. And then Molly's clutch, she proved het Sunkist, which is what she was sold to me as. But it's all... She didn't prove anything else out with him. So it's normals and Sunkists. 100% het cinder. Pos het 5,000 things. Posted a picture, I think, in my stories, but not on my feed. I really like Sunkist. They're really cool. So that'll be interesting because I could sell like a cinder het Sunkist and a Sunkist het cinder that are only half siblings. So that would be okay to pair together for people wanting to make shatters.
Now, what about your boa litter?
Holy fuck. Okay, so they were supposed to be... The dad was a normal het Central American and the mom was a hypo het Central American. And I kept the dad because he is like the best version of the stonewashed phenotype that you don't see anymore in boas. And I was like, cool, just breed them together. Get some stuff you can sell at the show because CAT pluses just look different a little bit and some hypos. And I'll keep all the ones that look like dad's normal phenotype. A, none of them came out looking like dad. B, there's only 2 CAT pluses. And C, worst of all, there was T-negative albino in it somewhere. And now I have 4 T-negative albinos of an unknown strain in my boa litter. And people would be like, that's okay. But it's not okay. Because there's 2 strains that are incompatible that look exactly the same, sharp and call. And you can't tell them apart except for by breeding trials. So that means both parents, the other parents of the other litter, which are their full siblings, and the other male I bred to another unrelated female are all het for an unknown strain of albino. So I cannot sell...
We were just talking about this. It's like you brought it into fruition.
Listen. Well, we were talking about like a double het to double het.
Right.
If you knew they were double het sharp and call, should they be culled? These ones aren't het for both. They're just het for one, and I just don't know which one. So I have to test breed some member of this family tree to either a prodigy or a boa woman caramel. And those are the same gene, just different lines of it. And they're allelic with sharp. And they make a combo that looks different than both sharp and prodigy or boa woman caramel. Call is not allelic with it. So if I bred a prodigy to any of them and I didn't get visual either paradises or paradigms, which are the two combos you could get, then the albino strain was call. So then I would have 100% het prodigies, 50% het call, 50% het CAT+, which is the other strain of T+ that they would be het for. That's why I was
Sounds
like...
really complicated. And isn't one of them bad and one of them good?
Well, in this case, there's less of like a value. Like CAT+ is less valuable than VPI-T+ in albinos. The fact that there's an albino strain mixed in with the CAT+, they're almost the same price on the market.
Okay.
So like I can tell them apart, and I'm pretty sure I hit a double homozygous one because it looks different, which I don't think one of those has even been born yet that I know of. So somehow I hit a world's first and didn't mean to.
So it's like a double albino?
Yes, but it looks different, which I'm surprised. I guess I'm not surprised because CAT+ is weird. Because CAT+, also known as Burke or the Stone line or the Nicaraguan line, can make angels. And angels are CAT+ plus another T+ line. The VPI one is Archangel. The first one was with Honduran T positive. And they look crazy because it's not on the same allele. So they're like both reducing melanin together.
Different things.
Yeah. So it makes them look like
Have you posted
pearls or something.
Or are you waiting for it to shed?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to shed.
In boa groups?
No, I'm definitely waiting for it to shed. Also, boa groups all suck collectively, so I don't know if I would.
So there is no place you can just be like, this is a world's first double of I don't fucking know.
Right, it doesn't matter until I prove it out, really, because I don't know if it's call or sharp to see if it was the world's first of it.
And there was only one of those?
Mm-hmm. There was only 14 babies or something and 2 stillborns. So a 1 in 16 would have been what I got. I got one of those, 2 of the CAT pluses, and 3 or 4.
Which are gorgeous.
Are they?
I think they're gorgeous.
You don't like the regular ones better?
You're talking about that's better than that? The orange one, I think, is better.
That's not a CAT plus.
What is that?
That's the T negative. The sharp or call albino. But it's a sunglow. The thing in the very center, if you want to look at this picture at home.
The one in the very center is the one you're talking about. That's the freak.
No, that is the CAT plus. The freak isn't even in the picture because Chris was holding it when I took that picture.
Oh, where's the picture of that?
I didn't take a picture. I just took a picture because I was mad that there was T negative in my fucking pairing, and then I posted it on Instagram. The freak looks like the T negatives, the stuff around the edge, but pale, like someone took away a bunch of its color.
And that's not the stonewash gene that you were trying to...
No, I don't think it's a gene. I think it's polygenic. It's just like a tendency to like have a... It's like a pastel lineage without color. This thing...
Now I want to see the whole damn litter.
Well, I'll take a picture once it sheds.
Of the whole thing?
Yeah, sure. I'll probably do a video, like a breakdown video.
Yeah, you better do that.
Because it's weird. The whole thing is weird, and it pisses me off. And they are very nice T negatives, like a lot of color. And I think all of them are sunglows. I don't think I hit a single non-hypo albino.
Okay, well, the really fucking orange ones are cool.
That's a T negative albino.
And you don't like those? You weren't expecting those.
I wasn't okay.
Jesus Christ.
So the orange ones do not have any melanin at all. I had 4 orange ones, plus the double homozygous. It's not pictured.
And what's the one in the middle? That
is a T really plus color? Albino. It has lots of tyrosine still, and it looks. But if you look at the ones next, like up, those are normal hypos, and I think there's only one straight up normal. Those ones are much darker than the T plus. If I did a video of this, it would be much more obvios what's going on.
Yeah, you need to do a video. Explain it to us. Really dumb people over here.
It's like the
layperson, because I think we are not saying the same things.
What did you think was going on? That the ones on the outside were the T pluses, and the one on the inside was the weirdo?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you were saying that the 2 on the outside, the bright orange ones, were what you wanted, and then there's that one dark thing in the middle, and that was not what you wanted.
No, the one in the middle was what I wanted. The things on the outside look cool when they're babies, but they have a problem with like fading as they get older. They have the eyeball problem, which we've already talked about, where they'll be born with bad eyes. And the only thing to do with them in terms of selective breeding is adding color. All of the melanin is already gone. So you can't like breed them for cleanness or clarity because the selective breeding is all done.
People want to buy those?
Yeah, I'm sure. They're like very attractive as like a pet.
Yeah.
I don't want to breed pets though, Jana. I want to breed things that are cool.
Sorry. I know. Yeah, the dang IMG litter didn't go.
We don't know yet for sure, but probably. What's the point of the story? I don't know. The point is, I can't keep them all, so I have to breed someone, either the uncles or the father, to a prodigy female that I buy in, or a Boa caramel, or do the reverse, find a Boa caramel and breed it to one of the mothers. Because I don't know what line it is, and to a pet keeper doesn't matter, but...
Do Japanese rat snakes normally eat eggs?
Mm-hmm.
They do?
Mm-hmm. They're nest raiders, like, you know, eastern rat snakes.
Can you tell? I haven't even been on Instagram. I haven't even seen all these. Now I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, my problem is they need smaller eggs than chicken eggs, so you need to give them quail eggs or something.
Right, for sure.
Right. But she was checking out...
And we've already talked about keeping quail and how obnoxious it would be.
Yeah, it'd be obnoxious, but it'd be an option. I don't know. One day. The other thing that's happening is the corn males that are younger have been getting better at breeding and locking as the season has gone on. Like they just grew up in the last 4 months much better. So obviously 18-month-old males, corns, don't breed that great when they just first come from brumation unless they're really big. But they seem to be doing better as the season goes on. Like I think I've gotten locks out of the orchid, and I think I got the locks out of the lava shatter. It's just I missed out on all them early in the season because they weren't ready. That's all.
That's all.
Any other collection updates?
Probably.
Jana's going to make everyone a list of all of her homework that she's doing.
I didn't even keep a list for myself, so... I got a lot of shit happening in my life right now.
Right.
I should make a homework list.
Well, we have the Monroe show next weekend. So next Monday's recording session will just be like a reaction to the Monroe show.
Oh, I love those. Those are my favorite episodes.
Right. Just how we did. I'll try to keep better notes. It's a 1-day show, so we'll at least have Sunday to like decompress before recording on Monday.
And we'll still hate the world, so bring your coffee, bitches. I don't even know if I have any snakes to take to this show.
All right. I think we did it, everybody. We'll see you next week. Unless Jana gargles someone's balls again and gets some sort of Belrog of Morgoth illness.
No more illness. That was my one-off. I'm good now. For the rest of forever. I don't need to get sick again.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.